MademmyifyASMR. Welcome back to MademmyifyASMR and welcome to another True Crime Tuesday. I'm sorry if you can hear all of that that's going on outside the door. Rosie has just run upstairs and is having a mad 10 minutes. Anyway, if you don't know what True Crime Tuesdays are on my channel, every Tuesday I bring you a story of true crime, usually focusing on British crime or lesser known crimes in a soft spoken way. And that's not to say that I won't or don't cover American cases. I do, just a lot less often. Tonight's story is the Merry Widow of Windy Nook. It's another one that's local-ish to me. It's going to be quite a short one tonight, I'm afraid, because there wasn't a lot about the case and I couldn't find the episode of Deadly Wives that recently came out about her. Also, I realised the last couple of weeks have been women who murder husbands. This wasn't me gathering ideas. My divorce paperwork is being filed. Yes, it would be cheaper, but no. He's alive, don't worry. So I'm just going to go straight into it. I will have had a bonus episode out, and so I'm sorry that the last two, have been very short ones. I think the next one, which will be the first of my Christmas true crimes, is going to be a much longer one. I think I'm up to about 4 or 5 pages with notes to kind of condense down. Anyway, tonight's title sounds a bit like a delightful children's book that's going to be about a lovely old lady who bakes cookies and serves them to children, but unfortunately the Merry Widow of Windy Nook is not a kid's story, but a nickname given to serial killer Mary Elizabeth Wilson, who was actually the last woman to be sentenced to death in the UK in 1958. Mary Elizabeth Wilson was born Mary Elizabeth Cassidy on June the 11th, 1889 in Catchfield in Stanley County, Durham, and christened a few weeks later on June the 30th at Our Blessed Lady and St. Joseph's Church. Not much is really known or documented about Mary's childhood, but in some point in her teens she began working in service to the Knowles family, striking up a friendship with their son, who was a labourer. Eventually this developed into a romantic relationship, and Mary and John Knowles married in November 1914. They settled in a house in Windy Nook in Gateshead. During the course of the marriage, John and Mary had 3 children, but unfortunately 2 of them did not survive infancy. It was quite common back then. Eventually, Mary took a lover, a young man named John Russell. He moved into the house with the family. I don't know if the affair because he was quite old. Mary inherited £50 from Oliver Leonard. Very soon after the death of husband number 3, Mary moved into a run-down bungalow belonging to Ernest Wilson. Mary soon learned Wilson not only had £100 in a co-op bank account, but also a fully paid life insurance policy. Ka-ching! Again, almost straight after the wedding, husband number 4 was taken ill and died of what the doctor ruled to be cardiac muscular failure. Mary couldn't even be bothered to go to his funeral. I mean, you've been to 2 husbands' funerals, 3 husbands' funerals, so, you know, you've done 1, you've done them all, I guess. You've done 3, you've done them all. By this time, with 4 marriages and 4 dead husbands, 3 in the space of 2 years, Mary was becoming the figure of local gossip. It wasn't only the frequency in which her spouses died that got people talking, but also her very cheery attitude towards a pattern of events. She finally caught the attention of local police after she joked at her wedding reception that any leftover sandwiches would be fresh enough to be kept for the wake. She also asked the local funeral director if he'd give her a trade discount due to the amount of business she was generating for him. Police decided to exhume the bodies of Oliver Leonard and Ernest Wilson to conduct autopsies. The pathologist confirmed both men had died from phosphorus poisoning. Mary was tried at the Leeds Assizes in March 1958. At her trial, Mary didn't give any evidence, though her defence tried to claim that both Oliver and Ernest had taken some sort of sexual stimulant pills that were known to contain phosphorus. Now, that, I think, after I'd written all of this out, there was another source that said that she had created these sexual stimulant pills and she'd given them to him. Either way, horny old men, horny old women. The jury didn't believe this defence and she was found guilty after a 90-minute deliberation. Initially, Mary was sentenced to death, but due to her age, she was granted clemency and sent to Holloway Women's Prison, where she served 4.5 years of her sentence before dying at age 70. Her great-granddaughter still lives locally. I can't remember if it was Tudder or Trimden. If you know the Durham area, you'll know both of those places. One of them's quite posh, one of them really isn't. Her great-grandmother's crime isn't particularly a secret. In fact, as kids, family members would joke that you better behave or great granny's gonna get you, which is kind of dark, really. Wow, this is a great one. Not even 10 minutes. Don't worry, I'll ramble and make this video longer. You know I love rambling. So that was Mary Elizabeth Wilson, the merry widow of Windy Nook. Next week will be the first of my Christmas true crimes. I haven't decided exactly